some very good friends who were Oakford Dominican sisters. And when they arrived in the country, many of them from Germany, immediately after the Second World War, there wasn't enough food for them in Oakford in KZN. So they lived on mangoes and pawpaws. Some of them said they never wanted to eat mangoes and pawpaws ever again. At one stage, there were 150 of those religious sisters, and they spread out all over the country, maternity, hospitals, clinics, and schools. What incredible faith. You've got to step out of your comfort zone. Keep your eye on Jesus. But you've also got to step out of your comfort zone if Jesus tells you to. If Jesus says to you, stay in the boat, maybe you should stay in the boat. That's it. You've got it. Stay in the boat. You see, there had to be that instruction. And that instruction can only come if you know who Jesus is. Stay in your boat until the Lord calls you. And He's going to call you into these incredible and strange and crazy spaces. I have been in them myself. Stay in the boat until you're called. And this then feeds into that that first reading. You remember last week we had, who was with Jesus? So it was Peter, James, John, Moses, and Elijah. Okay? That's the transfiguration story. Why Moses and Elijah? Mountain experiences of God. This week, just by happenstance, we have that first reading where we have Elijah on the mountain. And Elijah hears God's voice coming out and saying, I'm going to show you myself. And then there's earthquake, fire, thunder, lightning. And Elijah knows this is not God. And then there's a gentle sound. In fact, in the Greek, it speaks of, in the Hebrew, it speaks of the sound of silence, not the song that some of you might remember. He hears the sound, and that's when he knows that God is there. It's a process of discernment. He doesn't step out as Peter does. Peter steps out in the middle of the chaos. Elijah doesn't. He waits until he knows where God is. How are we going to do that? Well, stay in your boat until God calls you. Stay in your boat until you learn. In the second reading, we're working through chapter 9 now of the incredible catechism that is Romans, the letter to the Romans. And Paul torn up that his own people don't share his faith, that they don't understand who Jesus is. Which family doesn't have that at the moment? Which family has religion? I don't like organized religion. I'm spiritual. Paul says, I will give up everything if only they would understand how much God loves Jesus. And as you're doing that, you've got to, because so many of us don't have quiet space. We don't have that time. We don't have, as Pope Francis said during World Youth Day, we don't have the time to come and spend in front of the Blessed Sacrament. It scares us.